We're here today to release a new report called New Yorkers Pay When Big Money Plays, the case for public financing of elections. We're releasing this report today because the legislature is beginning to consider legislation for public financing of election campaigns. The Assembly passed a strong bill for public financing of elections last year, and Speaker Silver is moving toward passing it again this year. Senate Majority Leader Malcolm Smith is also committed to passing public financing, supported a bill last year, and the Senate has just posted 3 possible versions of a public funding bill on their website for public comment, and is beginning their public hearing process this week with a hearing on Thursday in Rochester. We're very hopeful that both houses will move forward and enact public funding of elections before the end of session in June. Today's report helps demonstrate one of the reasons we need reform. Consumers and taxpayers pay the price for the current private system of campaign funding. It's too expensive and we need to replace it. Our report, New Yorkers Pay When Big Money Plays, the case for public financing of elections, details how 5 specific bills currently before the legislature for consideration, bills that help average New Yorkers, were stopped in the last session, the 2007-2008 session, in large part due to big money corporate campaign contributions. These 5 bills would lower the cost of health insurance, lower the cost of prescription drugs, protect our fragile wetlands, make apartments more affordable, and control ticket scalping, allowing more New Yorkers access to events and concert tickets. These common sense bills could make New York a better place to live, and in 4 out of 5, they would save New Yorkers money. But as this report shows, the consumer and advocacy organizations that would be regulated by this legislation were drowned out last session by large corporate donations. These 5 bills provide concrete examples of how the current privately funded system for funding campaigns encourages a pay-to-play system that allows corporations to influence public policy with their campaign contributions. Pay-to-play is bad for us, bad for elected officials, and bad for policy in New York State. We can no longer afford not to fix this system. The answer is public financing of elections.
So what we did, very simply, is in each of the 5 cases, we found that consumers or environmentalists' contributions in the 2007-8 period, last session, not this period, vastly outweighed the contributions made by consumers or environmentalists that were on the other side. So very simply, corporations outweighed, in terms of their campaign contributions, consumer or environmental issues. We don't say that this is the entire universe of campaign contributions. So if you look at other reports, you'll find actually that the contributions they document are larger than ours. But that's because what we did was we simply looked at who indicated in state filings they had lobbied on a particular bill, and we included their contributions. So in reality, had we had the resources, because we had 2 bills and we have limited research staff, had we done, for example, looked at the lobbyists involved in each bill and how much they contributed, had we looked at lawyers and those who contribute primarily because they're lobbyists on the issue, or presidents or vice presidents of the company involved, the disparity we found would be even greater than we found in our report, and the contributions would be even greater. But we think our point is indisputable that consumers and environmentalists are outspent at least 9-to-1, in most cases more like 98, 99-to-1, on bills that consumers and environmentalists really care about in New York State.
The Hunger Action Network of New York State has always been very interested in the issue of campaign finance reform, because as an organization that represents poor people, we often find ourselves sort of shut out of the real decision-making process, because unlike say more wealthier organizations, we are not able to make campaign contributions, and poor people obviously in general do not make campaign contributions. And so a lot of issues that are a concern to poor people do not get the attention we feel that
elections right now are so much about, anybody who's considered running for office, well, how much money do you have in the bank already? That's like the #1 criteria. And a lot of it is about the fundraising, much less about the merits of the campaign, of what the values of the candidate are, etc. Public financing would go to create a system where it's really much more about the issues, more time spent with the voters, not doing the fundraising. Public financing is affordable. It's a very, very small amount, less than 1/10 of 1% of our overall state budget. Estimated costs are between $100 and $120 million over a 4-year election cycle. That's $25 to $30 million over a 4-year election cycle. A tiny price to pay, and the public agrees it's a tiny price to pay to make sure that our elected officials and our decision makers here in Albany are looking at these critical pieces of legislation that benefit them, only with them in mind, the voters, not donors, at the heart of making decisions about public policy. So those are some of the many reasons, and we're really hopeful this year. As Karen mentioned, the State Senate we are in the public hearing process, and the State Senate has put out 3 different kinds of public financing bills. They're up on their new Senate website for the public to mark up and to give comment to. In Rochester, there'll be a public hearing in 2 days. Next week, there'll be another public hearing in Albany on June 3rd. We expect good turnout for that, the public to come and turn out and say, absolutely, we need to move public financing. We have a lot of hope. You know, this report is based on the history of campaign contributions from the industry. And I have no doubt that they're still hanging around the halls of Albany and afterwards with checkbooks at fundraisers. But we do have new hope with new leadership in the state Senate, with the leadership of Senator Smith, Senate Majority Leader. And, you know, for public financing in particular, but all of these 5 pieces of legislation, you know, the new Senate and the Assembly Democrats have been in support of a lot of these things. We're very hopeful that this year will be different. But we think that what is most needed to be different is to institute a system of public financing of campaigns so we never have to worry about this again. Thanks very much.